Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, The School of Love. My name is Maria and I'm helping people discover their inner potential for love towards oneself and towards the others. Today I invite you to a new episode from the series What I Wish I Knew When I Was Younger. In every episode of this series, I take one important psychological concept or existential concept and I divide it into 5 steps in which might lead to a healing process. In today's episode, I will refer to the so-called repetition compulsion, or what they call in German Wiederholungszwang. This is a concept which was initiated or probably even created by Sigmund Freud, the famous psychoanalyst, the famous Swiss psychoanalyst who had impacted, like few others, the history of psychology, at least in the Western world. And in today's episode, I will start with a definition of the so-called repetition compulsion, and then I will deliver 5 steps, which are actually quite simple once you know them, which might mediate a healing process, which might lead to a healing process in those who are affected by this problem, by the issue of repetition compulsion. It's important to note that each of us, to a greater or lesser degree, is affected by this repetition compulsion, because we all have been at some point in our lives children, small children, infants, toddlers, and we were all at the mercy of some grown-ups who, more often than not, didn't know themselves what they were supposed to do with the little humans, the little entities they were given, for better or for worse. So all of us are afflicted to a certain degree by this repetition compulsion. And now let's get started with the definition. The repetition compulsion is that phenomenon by which we tend to repeat in our lives patterns which we have learned as children, as toddlers, as infants, and we repeat them with the hope to do it better or to heal a specific wound which back in childhood couldn't be healed. What this means more concretely speaking, let's say you were a girl, a young lady, and you ran into problematic relationships with the opposite sex, with men. This is a very common pattern. And these relationships, these romantic relationships, are every time problematic. They might be problematic in different ways, but every time problems arise, and they're usually unsolvable problems, which can be solved only by breaking up, and every time you promise yourself that you will never do that again, that next time you'll be careful and it won't happen. And next time it does happen again, maybe with a different partner, and maybe the underlying issue is a different one, but it's still an issue which is only solvable by breaking up from that respective partner. And next time, so you make the promise, you swore never to do it again, you pledge never to allow this kind of unsolvable situation to come up again, and still next time it happens again. If you look at the very issue, if you dissect it to its very basic components, you'll find out that these issues actually all have something in common. It might be an addiction. Let's say every single partner you're dealing with has some sort of addiction. It doesn't matter if it's an workaholism, or if it's alcoholism, or if it's drugs, or if it's pornography, or if it's video games. Every single partner has an addiction. It's a different addiction, but the major issue is the addiction itself, the basic issue. It's not only that they have an addiction, it's also the problem that why you haven't realized it earlier. What happened that you didn't see it coming? Or let's say the issue is cheating. It's not an addiction. He is a good person. Every time he's a good person, but every time you find out you're actually the other woman. or maybe you're not the other woman, but there is another woman. So cheating is a problem. Or let's say they're avoidant. They cannot really commit to you. They cannot really show the tenderness, the warmth you're longing for. So all these, there are some patterns, and if you dissect them to their basic elements, there is some common thread connecting all of them on one hand. On the other hand, there is also the fact that you don't see it coming. That when you realize there's a problem which is only solvable by a breakup, it's already too late, and it breaks your heart again and again. And it breaks your heart in a way in which it feels like it's the first time. And it is actually the first time. It is a repetition of that very first time, or first times, when your father or your male caregiver in childhood, in your early childhood, broke his promise, drank too much, and then I was either very violent or sexually abusive or emotionally unavailable or abusive towards your siblings or abusive towards your mother, and so on. So this is, in a word, repetition compulsion. Or let's say you're a man and you seem not to be able to get your life together. You promise every time you get your salary, you promise you're not going to go into debt again, respectively you're going to pay off your debt. And still, 10 days later, you still have no money left. So you have to borrow money again. So what happened to that money? You look at your expenses and think, yeah, I don't need anything. Why do I buy it? You cannot resist buying. You cannot resist spending money. You just feel like there's this urge to buy expensive things. Not even for yourself. That's even worse. You buy it for some women you're meeting, and you want to impress them. And every single time you promise yourself not to do it again, and still you do it. That's repetition compulsion. It is the repetition of that early childhood moment or moments when your mother or your female caregiver couldn't give you what you wanted, what you needed, what you longed for as a child, and what was perfectly normal, perfectly natural, and your birthright, so to say. So this is the definition of it. And how do you deal with it? The first step is to become aware of it. To become aware that you have a problem and that you're repeating the same stories, the same patterns with different characters, but it's the same cycle of death, the same cycle of romantic relationships which lead nowhere and which take you by surprise every time when you discover that they lead nowhere. So first step is to become aware of it, to have a very clear reckoning with yourself and to become aware of it. The second step, and this leads to the second step, is identify the trigger. Identify that element which sucks you in a way which doesn't allow you to back off. There's a very perverse combination of attraction and toxicity. Like when we were children, we loved our caregivers. We loved them as if they were gods. But some of them were really toxic. Some of them were really negative. And they had a very negative impact upon ourselves. But as children, we didn't know that. We didn't know how to protect ourselves. The only thing we knew and the only goal of our survival mechanism was to cling to them and to make them love us and like us so that they can protect us and provide for us. So you have to identify the trigger, and at the same time, identify the trigger will help you, will lead you to identify the payoff. Because there is, in this compulsion of repetition compulsion, there is this feeling of, I can do it. So, and this is when you stick with something very unhealthy. I can do it, I can make it happen. It can work out. It doesn't. But there is this dopamine flush, this dopamine excess, which motivates you to try once more although you know it won't work out, and still you try it. You do it because there is this perverse hope. There's this perverse sense of hope that this time it will be okay. It's not. And so after I identify the trigger and the payoff, the reward which accompanies giving in to this trigger, it's very important to find healthy ways to deal with the triggers and with the payoff. Let's say you, as a woman, you meet a man and everything seems perfect. The moment things seem too good to be true, that's when all alarm bells should start ringing, And that moment you have to say, okay, take it slowly. For instance, don't rush into intimacy. Don't rush the dating process. Take it slowly. I have too many stories from my own past in which would I have taken the thing slowly? Anyway, more slowly than I have taken at the time, many things wouldn't have happened. Many things wouldn't have happened. But unfortunately, they did happen because I rushed. Because I didn't trust the process. I wanted to control the process. I wanted to control the outcome. I wanted to control essentially everything. So, take it slowly. If you feel like I have to prove myself, I have to prove that I'm worthy of admiration, of respect, of love, of appreciation, take it slowly. First of all, you are worthy anyway, and you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Take things slowly, look into yourself, reflect upon yourself. Don't think too much, just go for a walk. Every time you feel like sending a text message, because you feel lonely, because you feel some needs for validation, go for a walk, put the mobile phone aside and go for a walk, take a shower, take a nap, watch a beautiful YouTube video. Let yourself be inspired and motivated by the good things in your life, not by those dopamine rushes which always lead you astray or in the wrong direction, or in a direction you actually do not want to go. And the final step, which is also very important, is to discover a sense of gratitude, to discover it and to develop it, to develop a sense of gratitude for who you are today due to those experiences in the past. So repetition compulsion is usually a negative issue. It's something we try to repeat in order to heal, in order to make it better, in order to find solution and absolution. And for that to happen, we actually have to look inside ourselves to see those painful elements and then to let them go. But we cannot let them go unless we treat them with kindness and gratitude. This is something most people cannot do because it is so painful. It is very painful to look into your past and to see all the good things which didn't happen, and we wished they happened. We wished they had happened and they didn't, and we become aware that a lot of the things we thought happened, respectively, a lot of the things we thought were good were actually bad, and this awareness can actually be very painful. No, it is very painful. That's why most people avoid it. But the moment you see it for what it is. It is a past. You cannot change it. You cannot control it. You can only turn it into a narrative of faith and enlightenment and freedom. Freedom to feel gratitude, even for those times that actually broke you, literally. That would be for today. This with repetition compulsion, I'll have a separate video on all the things which could have been and never were, and which leave a sense of emptiness in us, and how to develop actually forgiveness for ourselves and for those who couldn't give us what we needed back then. Thank you for joining me today, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you again very soon. Love and peace to you all.